The private dining room at Lumiere was everything my mother had dreamed of for her 50th birthday celebration. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the harbor, crystal chandeliers caught the morning light, and white orchids adorned every surface. The staff moved with practiced elegance, delivering course after course of exquisite food. I sat at the far end of the table, exactly where my sister Amanda had placed me, away from the important guests. My simple black dress and minimal jewelry stood in stark contrast to the designer outfits surrounding me. My mother wore Chanel. Amanda, seated at Mom's right hand, sparkled in Dior. Even my brother Daniel's girlfriend had clearly spent a fortune at Bergdorf's. "Sophia, honey, are you still at that little bistro downtown?" my mother's friend Eleanor asked, her voice dripping with practiced sympathy. "What's it called again?" Before I could answer, Daniel cut in. "She moves around a lot. Different restaurants. You know how it is in that industry, unstable." "Such a shame," Eleanor continued, patting my mother's hand. "But Margaret, look at your other children. Daniel, a partner at Morrison & Associates at only 35. And Amanda, vice president at Nexus Corporation. You have so much to be proud of." My mother's smile was tight. "Yes, well, we're very proud of Daniel and Amanda." The emphasis on their names wasn't subtle. It never was. "Mom, try the sea base," Amanda suggested, redirecting the conversation. "It's incredible. This place has been on the waiting list for months. I had to use my corporate connections to get us in." I bit back a smile and took another sip of water. "Actually," Daniel leaned back in his chair, gesturing with his champagne glass, "I'm the one who secured this reservation. The owner is a client of a colleague. Pulled some strings." Neither of them noticed the server's barely concealed smirk as he refilled my water glass. His name was Marcus and he'd worked for me for 3 years. He caught my eye for a fraction of a second and I gave him the slightest nod. "Keep quiet. Sophia, you must see places like this all the time," Eleanor's daughter Bridget said. She meant well, but her pity was exhausting. "Working in restaurants, I mean. Do you get to eat the fancy food?" "Sometimes we get staff meals," I said simply. "Staff meals?" Daniel laughed and others joined in. "That's my little sister. Living on scraps while the rest of us wine and dine clients." "Daniel," my father said, but there was no real reproach in his voice. "Be nice." "I'm being honest, Dad. Sophia's 32. When is she going to get serious about her life?" Amanda was a director by 30. I made senior associate by 28. "Sophia still, what are you exactly? A waitress? A hostess?" "I work in kitchens mostly," I said, keeping my voice even. "Right, because that's so much better," Amanda said, examining her manicured nails. "Mom, I'm sorry, but we need to talk about this. It's embarrassing. Do you know what people say when they ask about your children?" I tell them about my VP position, Daniel talks about his law firm, and then there's Sophia, who works in kitchens. My mother looked down at her plate. "Sophia makes her own choices. Choices to waste her life," Daniel muttered. "She could have gone to business school," Amanda continued. "She had the grades. Instead she went to culinary school." "Culinary school? To learn how to cook? As if that's a career." "Some chefs do very well," Eleanor offered weakly. "Celebrity chefs," Amanda countered. "TV personalities. Not people who work the line in restaurant kitchens. That's not a career, it's a hobby that doesn't pay." I finished my water. Marcus immediately appeared to refill it. "How much do you even make?" Daniel asked, leaning forward. "Seriously, Sophia. What's your salary? $35,000? $40,000 a year? I made that in a month last quarter." "Daniel, that's inappropriate," my father said, but he didn't disagree with the sentiment. "I'm just saying someone needs to give her a reality check. She's 32, living in a tiny apartment, taking the subway everywhere, wearing..." He gestured at my dress, "whatever that is. Meanwhile, we're all building wealth, establishing ourselves, creating futures. Some of us have real careers," Amanda repeated, smiling at the table. "Real accomplishments. I just closed a $50 million deal last week." "What did you do, Sophia?" "Learn a new soup recipe." The table laughed. Even my mother's lips quirked upward. I set down my water glass carefully. "The lobster bisque is excellent, by the way." "See." Daniel spread his hands. "That's what she cares about. Soup. Not career advancement, not building wealth, not making something of herself. Soup." "It's sad, really," Amanda said, her voice softer now, more condescending. "We all had the same opportunities, the same advantages. Private school, good college, supportive parents. Daniel and I capitalized on that. Sophia just gave up. I didn't give up, I said quietly. No. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Then what do you call working in restaurant kitchens at 32? What's your 5-year plan, Sophia? 10-year plan? Are you going to be a line cook at 40? A prep chef at 50? Maybe she'll meet a nice executive chef, Bridget suggested, trying to help. Someone established who can take care of her. She needs someone to take care of her, my mother murmured, and the defeat in her voice stung more than Daniel's mockery. She's never going to take care of herself at this rate. Marcus appeared beside me again, but this time he wasn't alone. The restaurant's general manager, Philippe, stood beside him. Philippe's expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the question in his eyes. I gave a tiny shake of my head. Not yet. You know what I heard? Daniel's girlfriend spoke up. Her name was Courtney and she worked in marketing. I heard that kitchen jobs are being automated. Soon robots will do all the prep work, all the cooking. What will you do then, Sophia? Adapt, I said simply. To what? You have no other skills. You've spent your entire adult life in kitchens. No business experience, no leadership training, no executive presence. You're 32 with the resume of a teenager. The room felt smaller suddenly. The weight of their collective judgment pressed down on me. This wasn't new. My family had been disappointed in me for a decade. But something about today, about my mother's milestone birthday, about the accumulated years of dismissal, made it sharper. I worry about you, my mother said, and she sounded sincere. What happens when you're too old to work those long kitchen hours? When your back gives out or your knees? You have no savings, no investments, no retirement plan. How do you know that? I asked. Because if you did, you wouldn't be living in that studio apartment, Amanda said. You wouldn't be taking public transportation. You wouldn't be wearing a dress from, what is that, Sarah? Target, I corrected. The table went silent for a beat, then several people laughed. Target. Daniel repeated. Our mother's 50th birthday brunch at Lumiere, and Sophia shows up in a Target dress. At least she showed up, my father said, but even that felt like a criticism. Eleanor, tell Margaret about your new beach house. The conversation shifted and I became invisible again. They talked about vacation homes and investment portfolios, about their children's private schools and upcoming luxury cruises. Amanda mentioned casually that she was buying a second property in Aspen. Daniel discussed his new Tesla. No one asked me anything else. I was the family disappointment, the cautionary tale, the daughter they loved but didn't respect. I was almost finished with my entree when the door to the private dining room opened. A man in an impeccable charcoal suit entered. He was in his 60s, silver-haired, with the bearing of someone accustomed to authority. He carried a leather portfolio and wore a discreet Michelin guide pin on his lapel. The conversation died mid-sentence. Philippe immediately moved toward him, but the man raised a hand. I know where I'm going, Philippe. Thank you. He walked directly to me. Chef Martinez, he said, his French accent subtle but unmistakable. Forgive the interruption. I wouldn't disturb your family celebration, but the Paris location needs your final approval on the menu. We're 3 weeks from opening and Chef Laurent insists on your personal review of the tasting menu. The silence that followed was absolute. I set down my fork and looked up at him. Jacques. I told you, no business today. It's my mother's birthday. I know and I apologize. But you also told me Paris was the priority. The investors are asking questions and after what you accomplished in London, they're expecting perfection. My brother's champagne glass slipped from his fingers. It shattered against his plate, crystal exploding across the white tablecloth. No one moved to clean it up. Everyone was staring at me. Chef Martinez? My mother repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Jacques turned to her, smiling. Madame Martinez, you must be Sophia's mother. It's an honor. Your daughter is extraordinary. The youngest 3-star Michelin chef in North American history. Her restaurants have revolutionized contemporary cuisine. Restaurants. Amanda's face had gone pale. As in plural? 7 currently, Jacques said pleasantly as if discussing the weather. New York, Los Angeles, London, Tokyo, Barcelona, and the flagship here, of course. Paris will be the 8th. Each one has earned either 2 or 3 Michelin stars within 18 months of opening. It's unprecedented. Philippe cleared his throat. Shall I bring the documents to your office, chef? My office. The one on the 3rd floor of this building. The building I owned. What's happening? Daniel's voice cracked slightly. Sophia, what is he talking about? I looked at my brother, at his expensive suit, his luxury watch, his carefully styled hair, at the judgment that had lived in his eyes for a decade. I think, I said slowly, there's been a misunderstanding about what I do for a living. You're a chef. My mother's hands were shaking. You own restaurants? Not just restaurants, Jacques corrected gently. The Martinez Restaurant Group is valued at $480 million. Sophia built it from nothing in 9 years. She's one of the most respected culinary minds in the world. Amanda made a choking sound. But you said, my father started. You said you worked in kitchens. I do, I confirmed. I work in my kitchens, in my restaurants, learning every position, training every chef, developing every menu. That's how you earn Michelin stars, by understanding every single aspect of the operation. Your kitchens, Daniel repeated dumbly. Your restaurants. She's being modest, Jacques said. 3 of her restaurants are in the world's 50 best restaurants list. Her New York location is number 12 globally. She's been profiled in the New York Times, the Financial Times, Bon Appetit, and Forbes. Last year she turned down an offer from Amazon to start a culinary streaming platform. The offer was $200 million. The private dining room suddenly felt very small. I don't understand, my mother whispered. Why didn't you tell us? I tried, I said simply. But every time I mentioned my work you changed the subject. Every time I invited you to one of my restaurants, you were too busy. You weren't interested in my little cooking projects. Your cooking projects, Amanda repeated, her voice hollow. You own this restaurant? Lumiere. The entire building actually, Philippe interjected. 6 floors. The restaurant occupies the first 3. Chef Martinez's offices and development kitchen are on the 4th and 5th floors. The 6th is her private residence when she's in the city. I watched the information hit them like physical blows. The reservation, Daniel said slowly. You said you pulled strings. Philippe's smile was professional but unmistakably satisfied. Mr. Martinez, you left 3 voicemails claiming to be a friend of the owner. We don't typically respond to those. But when Chef Martinez heard her family wanted to celebrate here, she instructed us to provide the best table and her personal attention to the menu. You planned this. My mother looked around the room as if seeing it for the first time. This entire brunch? I plan to give you a beautiful 50th birthday, I said. In one of my restaurants prepared by my team showcasing the work I've spent a decade building. I thought maybe finally you'd see that my choices weren't mistakes. They were just different from yours. Jacques shifted his weight. Chef, I really do need that approval. The Paris investors are hosting a preview dinner in 3 weeks. The guest list includes the French Minister of Culture. Send the menu to my tablet, I said. I'll review it tonight. You have a Paris restaurant opening, Amanda said faintly. In 3 weeks. The 8th location, I confirmed. We're also in development talks for Dubai and Singapore, but those are at least 2 years out. I want to make sure Paris is perfect first. The Martinez Group doesn't rush. The Martinez Group, Daniel repeated. That's you. You're the Martinez Group. Technically it's mine and my business partners. Ricardo Torres, he handles all the business operations while I focus on the culinary side. He's brilliant. We met at culinary school. He was in the business management program. How much? My father asked suddenly. How much is your share worth? Dad. How much, Sophia? I looked at Jacques, who nodded permission. About $290 million, I said quietly. Give or take, depending on quarterly performance. My sister made a sound like she'd been punched. But you drive a... My mother trailed off. A 2015 Honda Civic, I finished. Because I don't care about cars. I care about restaurants. About food. About building something meaningful. The Civic gets me where I need to go. Your apartment, Amanda whispered. That studio. Is a pied a terra, I said. I spend most of my time traveling between locations. When I'm here I usually stay upstairs. The studio is for when I want privacy. Plus the rent is $800 a month. Why would I give up a rent-controlled apartment in Manhattan? Daniel laughed. A sharp, almost hysterical sound. You're worth $290 million and you live in a rent-controlled studio. I live in 7 cities, I corrected. I have residences in each location near my restaurants. But yes, I keep the studio. It reminds me where I started. Where you started, my father said slowly, was here. With us. With advantages. With opportunities. Which I used, I said. I went to culinary school on scholarship. You refused to pay for it, remember? You said it was a waste. So I got a full ride based on merit. Then I worked 80-hour weeks in other people's kitchens, learning, saving every penny. I opened my first restaurant when I was 26 with $50,000 in savings and a loan I paid back in 18 months. You never asked us for help, my mother said. You never offered. You told me I was wasting my life. The truth hung in the air between us. Jacques cleared his throat delicately. Chef, I should also mention, the James Beard Foundation called. They want to schedule your acceptance speech for Best Chef, Northeast. It's in 6 weeks. James Beard Award, my mother repeated faintly. Her fourth, Philippe said, unable to hide his pride. She won Best New Chef 3 years ago, Best Chef, New York 2 years ago, and Outstanding Chef last year. This year's Best Chef, Northeast, brings her collection to 4. She's the youngest chef to ever win Outstanding Chef. I also need to mention, Jacques continued, checking his phone, that the Michelin ceremony is in 2 months. Tokyo and Barcelona are both expected to receive their 3rd stars. That would make 5 3-star restaurants in your portfolio. Only 2 other restaurant groups in the world have achieved that. 5 3-star Michelin restaurants. The magnitude of that achievement hung in the room. Why didn't you tell us? My mother's eyes were filling with tears. All these years, Sophia. Why let us think you were failing? I didn't let you think anything, I said, my voice steady. I told you I was working on my career. I invited you to openings. I sent you articles about my restaurants. You weren't interested. You assumed because I wasn't in a corporate office I wasn't successful. You measured my worth by your standards and found me lacking. We thought we were helping, my father said. Being honest with you. Pushing you to want more. I have more than you ever imagined, I said. I just built it differently. Daniel's voice was small when he spoke. I tried to get funding 6 months ago. For my firm's expansion. The venture capital firm turned me down. They said their portfolio was full. I said nothing. That was you, he continued, the realization dawning. The firm was Martinez Torres Ventures. That was your venture capital firm. One of several investment vehicles, Jacques confirmed. Chef Martinez and Mr. Torres have diversified holdings. Real estate, technology, sustainable food systems, culinary education programs. You could have funded my expansion, Daniel said. I could have, I agreed. But the business plan was weak. You wanted to open 3 new offices without sufficient client base to support them. It would have failed within 18 months. I don't invest in bad ideas even from family. But you let me get rejected. You let me think strangers were turning me down. Strangers were turning you down, I said. The investment committee reviews proposals blind. I recused myself when yours came through, but the decision was unanimous without me. Your business model was flawed. Amanda's voice was sharp. My company tried to hire you last year. For consulting. We were developing a corporate dining program and wanted culinary expertise. I know. You offered me $50,000 for 6 months of consulting work. Which you didn't respond to. Because my hourly consulting rate is $15,000, I said simply. Your offer was insultingly low. If you'd done any research you would have known that. But you assumed I'd be desperate for any opportunity. The color drained from Amanda's face. Philippe leaned in. Chef, I hate to interrupt, but the kitchen is requesting your presence. A VIP guest is asking to meet you. Who? Daniel Boulud. He's dining downstairs with his wife. Daniel Boulud. One of the most celebrated chefs in the world, with restaurants across the globe and a Michelin star collection that rivaled mine. Tell him I'll be down in 10 minutes, I said. Daniel Boulud wants to meet you, my mother said faintly. We're friends, I said. We collaborate occasionally. He's considering a partnership for a culinary school in France. We're co-investors in a sustainable seafood initiative. I stood straightening my target dress. Around the table my family sat frozen in shock. I need to get back to work, I said. Please enjoy the rest of your meal. Dessert is excellent. I developed the chocolate soufflé recipe myself. Everything today is complimentary, obviously. It's Mom's birthday. Sophia, my mother started, but I held up a hand. I'm glad you're enjoying Lumiere, I said. It's one of my favorites. The staff here is exceptional. They've been with me since we opened 4 years ago. Philippe, please make sure everyone has what they need. Of course, chef. I turned to Jacques. Send me those Paris documents. I'll have notes by tomorrow morning. And tell Lauren I'll be there next week to do the final tasting in person. Will you take the jet? The jet, Daniel whispered. Probably commercial, I said to Jacques. I like the time to think, but have it ready just in case. I looked back at my family one last time. My mother's tears had spilled over. My father sat rigid, his face unreadable. Amanda stared at the table. Daniel looked like he might be sick. Enjoy your meal, I said quietly. And Mom, happy birthday. I left the private dining room, Jacques following. In the hallway, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. That was harder than I expected, I admitted. Family usually is, Jacques said gently. But chef, they needed to know. You've hidden long enough. I wasn't hiding. I was building. There's a difference. And now they know what you built. We reached the elevator to my office. Before the doors closed, I heard Philippe's voice from the private dining room. Can I get anyone anything? More champagne? Although I should mention, everything you've been drinking today is from Chef Martinez's personal wine collection. The Cristal is from her private reserve. I smiled as the elevator doors shut. 3 hours later, I was in my office reviewing the Paris menu when my phone buzzed. My mother. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times before answering. Hi, Mom. Sophia. Her voice was thick with tears. Can we talk? Really talk. I looked out the window at the harbor, at the city I'd conquered one perfect dish at a time. I'm flying to Paris next Wednesday, I said. I'll be gone for 2 weeks. But when I get back we could have dinner. Here at Lumiere. Just family. A real conversation, not a performance. I'd like that. She paused. Sophia, I'm so sorry. I know. We were so wrong. Yes, I agreed. You were. Can you forgive us? I thought about all the years of dismissal, all the comments, all the assumptions. But I also thought about the drive it had given me, the determination to prove, if only to myself, that my path was valid. I'm working on it, I said honestly. But Mom, if we're going to rebuild this, you need to understand something. My success doesn't look like Daniel's or Amanda's. Looks like 80-hour weeks in hot kitchens. It looks like burned hands and aching feet and missing holidays because service doesn't stop. It looks like Target dresses because I'd rather invest in my restaurants than my wardrobe. My success is different. And different doesn't mean less. I understand now, she whispered. I'm so proud of you. Then when I get back from Paris, bring Dad. Bring Daniel and Amanda if they want to come. We'll sit down as a family in my restaurant and we'll start over. On equal terms this time. Thank you, she breathed. Thank you for not giving up on us. I'm a chef, Mom. I don't give up on anything. I just keep working until it's perfect. After we hung up, I returned to the Paris menu. Laurent had created something beautiful, but the timing on the duck needed adjustment. I made notes, sent them, then pulled up the designs for the Singapore location. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Daniel. You could have told me, he said without preamble. When I asked for funding. You could have just told me who you were. Would you have listened? Or would you have assumed I was lying? Silence. Your business plan was flawed, I said. But if you want to resubmit with corrections, the committee reviews proposals quarterly. Next deadline is in 6 weeks. Do the research this time. Understand your market. Build something sustainable. You'd consider it? I'd consider any solid business proposal. Family or not. That's how I built this, Daniel. By making smart decisions, not emotional ones. I was terrible to you today. Yes, I agreed. You were. Amanda feels awful. She should. Can we fix this? I thought about the years ahead, about whether my family could truly see me differently now. Whether they could respect the empire I'd built in the margins they'd dismissed. Maybe, I said. But Daniel, I'm not the same little sister you used to know. I'm not looking for your approval anymore. I built this without it. If you want to be part of my life, you need to respect what I've accomplished. All of it. Not just the parts that look like success to you. I do. I swear I do. Then prove it. Dinner when I get back from Paris. We'll start there. After I hung up, I stood at my office window looking down at the restaurant below. The lunch service was winding down. My staff moved through their routines with practiced precision. Every plate that left the kitchen was perfect because I'd trained them to accept nothing less. My phone buzzed with a message from Ricardo. Asterisk Paris investors confirmed for preview. Also Singapore permits approved. We're good to break ground. Asterisk. I smiled and typed back. Asterisk perfect. See you in Paris next week. Asterisk. Jacques appeared in my doorway. Daniel Boulud sends his compliments on the menu. He wants to discuss a collaboration in Tokyo. Schedule something for next month, I said. After the Michelin ceremony. And your family? We'll see, I said. We'll see if they can accept who I really am. Because that was the truth they discovered today. I wasn't their disappointment. I never had been. I was exactly who I'd always planned to be. A chef who'd built an empire, one perfect dish at a time in the margins they couldn't see. And whether they joined me in this world I'd created or stayed in the one where I was still just the failed daughter, I would keep building. Keep creating. Keep proving that success isn't just one path. It's every path you're willing to work hard enough to perfect.